All right, so we're going to do some division base 12. But first, I just want you guys to do a normal base 10 problem. And just think about the steps that you're doing while you do just a regular old 3117 divided by 8 and regular old base 10, 3117 divided by 8. So pause the video and do that now. Okay, so I think everybody should be fine with this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see, well, how many times does 8 go into 3000s? 0. So you could either say, all right, it goes in 0 times, and so I have 3 left over, and now I'm going to bring down my 1. But if you're comfortable with just place values in your long division, you don't need to do everything like that. You can just kind of do the zeros in your head. So you would think about putting a 0 up here, and you're like, oh, since I'm subtracting 0, I'll just treat this as 3100s right away. I'll break up my 3000s and the 3100s. Okay, so 8 goes into 3100s. Well, 3 times we've used 24, leaving us with 700s, and that's, we can't make another group. We bring down our 1. Now we're dealing with 71 tens. 8 goes into 71 tens 8 times. We subtract. 71 minus 64 is also 7. We bring down our 7. And 8 goes into 77 9 times. We subtract 72. I'm getting a bit wonky here. That's all right. With a remainder of 5. So the whole thing is you're asking, well, all right, in this case, what is the most number of groups I can make out of, in this case, my 3100s? I can make 3 groups, but not 4. If I put a 4 here, then this would be 32, since 4 times 8 is 32, and that's too big. So I pick the most number groups of 8 I can make. In this case, it's 3. Now, if we were to do this base 12, it's the exact same thing. But again, we're not as comfortable with our base 12 times table, so we'll need to have a look at a times table sheet. So this is all in base 12, 3117 base 12. And I think it's a good idea for all of you guys to get a base 12 times table sheet right now and look along with me to make sure that you see what's happening. Okay, so let's look at this place value first. So that's the 12 cubes place value, so that's 1728, if you will, in base 10, but it's the 12 cubed place value. And how many groups of 8 can we make out of that place value? Well, none, of course. So we put our 0 here. Again, just like before, we're thinking of a 0 here. And we could subtract 0 like before and say, all right, there's 3, and then bring down the 1. Or if we're comfortable, we can just say, okay, since there's 0, I'm just going to ask, all right, how many? I'm going to break up my cubes into squares, so now I have 3, 1 base 12 squares. Now, we don't know, unless you know your base 12 times table sheet off by heart, which I don't, and I don't think any of you guys do. We don't know, off the top of our heads, how many groups of 8 we can make out of 3, 1. So we have to look at our times table sheet. So let me just draw kind of the relevant sections. So here, let's draw it down here. So here's my times table sheet. And we're looking at the 8ths row. So here's the 8ths row. In fact, let me make it just a little bit bigger, just so I can draw the numbers a little bigger and it's easier to read. So there's my 8ths row. Now I'm going to draw in a few of these columns. So I know that 8 times 4 in base 12 is 28. That's a good place to start. Now maybe I'll start at 3, actually. So we have 8 times 3, 8 times 4, 8 times 5. And 8 times 3 in base 12 is 20. 8 times 4 is 28. And 8 times 5 is 34. So just like with base 10, you're asking, well, what's the largest multiple of 8 that doesn't go over? And if I look here in my table, well, 8 times 3 is 20. If I have another 8, 4 8s are 2 8. And I shouldn't have said 20. I should have said 20. My mistake. So 8 times 3 is 20. 8 times 4 is 2 8. But 8 times 5 is 3 4. 3 4 is too big. We have, this is 3 12s and 4 1s. We only have 3 12s and 1 1. So 5 groups of 8 is too many. So 4 is the most we can make. I'll put a little circle around that just to make sure we know how we're picking it. So I'll put a 4 here. And 8 times 4 we said was 2 8. So now we subtract. 1 minus 8 we can't do. We need to borrow. Remember, we have to be careful. When we borrow a 12, we get 12 ones out of it, or 12 of the next place value down. So this is like 13 here. It's written as 112 and 1 1. So this is 13 minus 8 is 5, and 2 minus 2 is 0. 5 is less than 8, so it looks good. Just a quick reminder, we always have to have our remainders less than the number that is our divisor. Okay, we do the same thing. Let's bring down our 1, and we'll just keep going. So we go to our times table sheet again. I'm going to erase this just so I can redraw in the relevant sections. So I'll get rid of that, and I'll get rid of this. Let me update that just a tiny bit. Okay, so let's say we're looking, we need 5 1. So let's say here's 7, here's 8. And we know 8 times 7, looking at our times table sheet, is 4 8. And 8 times 8, base 12, is 5 4. So looking at those, again, if we make 8 groups of 8, that will require 5 4 things, but we only have 5 1. 5 4 is bigger than 5 1. We don't have enough to group. So we go to 1 down. 8 times 7 is 4 8, so we're good to go. So I'm going to subtract 4 8, and that is 7 groups of 8. 7 times 8 is 4 8. So we're always looking for the one that's the largest without going over. 4 8 in this case is. So that's 7 times 8. And we subtract, and just like before, this is 5. We bring down our 1, or sorry, in this case, our 7. And now, well, 8 times 9, if we check, is 6 0. So just like before, well, 9 groups of 8 requires 6 0 things. We don't have enough, so we need to use 8 groups of 8, which is 5 4. So we'll subtract 5 4, the biggest without going over, and we subtract 5 7 minus 5 4 is 3. We check our remainder is less than our divisor, and it is. Oh, and I didn't write down how many groups that was. That was 8 groups. My mistake. So that's 4 7 8, and unless we want to get into decimals or anything like that, which we don't really, we can just write down our remainder. So we have remainder 3. So again, just looking at your times table sheet, all you're doing is you're determining the multiple of 8 that's the largest to what you want to, how many you have to group without going over. So the first case, 8 times 4 was 28. If we put a 5 there, we would have had too many. So it's just like base 10, except you're using your base 12 times table sheet. All right, let's do one more example. I'll get you guys to do it, and then we can look at it together. So try this one. Try A into 2, 4, 3, B, 1, base 12. So pause the video now and try that along with your times table. Remember, you'll want to be looking at the A row in this case. All right, now that we're back, let's go ahead and do this. Just like before, we're just going to use our times table sheet. I'm not going to write down everything here, but I think it's a good idea to always look at your times table sheet and make sure that you know why we're picking the number we are. Remember, we're looking for the largest multiple of A without going over. That's the trick. Okay, so let's go ahead. We can't make 10 groups, or we can't make a group of 10 with only 2 things, so we go over 1 place value. So now let's look at, so we're thinking of a 0 here. Let's look at 2, 4. So if we look at our times table sheet, it looks like we can only make 1 group. And 1 times A, or sorry, 2 groups, my mistake, 2 groups. And 2 times A is 1, 8. We subtract, so we'll break up one of those 12s into 12 ones, or 12 of the next place value down, I should say. So that's 12 plus 4. We're thinking of that 1, 4 as 16. We wrote it as 1, 4, but remember, this is base 12, so that's 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. 8 is less than A. We're good. We are good to go. Bring down our 3. Okay, 8 goes into A3. Looking at my times table sheet, it goes in 9 times. It almost goes in 10 times, but not quite. So 9 times A is 7, 6. And we subtract. We need a borrow, so this becomes a 7. This becomes a 1, 3. We're thinking of this as 15, 12 plus 3. Remember, we're in base 12, so this is 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. And 9 is less than A. We're good to go. We bring down our B. A goes into 9B 11 times, or B times. And A times B is 9, 2. We subtract, and we get another B. Oh, sorry, we get another 9, not B. My mistake. 9. We bring down our 1. And A goes into 9, 1. A times. A times A is 8, 4. And check when you subtract, you should see that you get a 9 here. And our remainder is 9, which is less than 10, less than A. So that's a fine remainder to have. So our final answer is 29BA, remainder 9.